Hello everyone, welcome to today's Strategic Source webinar on the topic of how to retain employees and keep them engaged. Good to have you joining us today. This is David, the session producer. Today we will have Chris Austin, our Executive VP of Sales here at Strategic Source. He'll come out in just a moment for a few opening comments and then introduce our guest presenter. Audio is via the computer speakers. You can ask questions that'll be in a Q&A box that'll be appearing shortly on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We'll try to answer as many of those as we can during this 60-minute session. So let's get underway. Chris, I have your webcam now able to activate. So here on today's topic is Chris Austin, again, Executive VP of Sales here at Strategic Source. And Chris, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, David. Appreciate the introduction, and just like to start off by saying welcome everybody to our Strategic Sources Innovative Webinar Series. We're very happy to continue this series. We're seeing a big uptick in the attendance and demand for education on various topics with a lot of our certified suppliers. So this is really intended for our clients today, and also we've opened this up to our network of contacts to be also educated on our certified suppliers. So we're excited to have everyone on board today. Be looking out in your emails. About every 2 weeks we are expanding our webinar series into various topics. So look for those registrations. We're going to continue this on as we're seeing a lot of demand for education. So thank you again for attending. I'm going to do a brief introduction to Lindsay Rodriguez from Werkandme. She is going to be talking about how to retain employees and keep them engaged, which, as you know, is very important, very competitive market that we're seeing today. So we're excited to bring Lindsay on. A few notes at the end. We'll open up for questions. Lindsay will be able to address some of those, and we can talk about our upcoming webinar series. But just a little insight on Lindsay. She's an entrepreneur and co-founder of Werkandme. Really saw a need in the market to improve client retention. So that's what she's going to be reviewing with us today, and really has a unique solution that she will discuss and go into detail with. So we're excited to bring Lindsay on, have her part of our webinar series, and take it away, Lindsay. We look forward to this.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you all for allowing me to present in this dynamic webinar today. So I am excited to be able to share with you all what I'm extremely passionate about, and that's people. I have spent my entire adult life in the automotive industry, so I know it from the dealer level as well as the vendor level, and so I'm excited to be able to share what I've been working on the last couple years at this point, and really have been evolving and working on my entire professional career. So today I'm going to talk to you about Werkandme, and Werkandme is basically an employee experience platform. And Werkandme is designed based on a couple events that have happened in my life. So back when I first got in the automotive industry, when I was in my early 20s, I realized really quickly that I needed to go into the battle with my people, not in front of them, not behind them, but with them. And what I found was that it's so important to empower your people. And with that, I thought about things over my entire life of leading people, and how do you make a difference in the lives of those that you work with each and every day. We surround ourselves with these individuals every single day, and it's our job to lead them and make great people, as well as combine really their professional and their personal lives, and realize that there's a dynamic in that work-life balance. So I'm going to get into Werkandme. I'm going to walk you through what it looks like today. I'll take you through what I think the opportunity is, the overall investment, and what that looks like. We'll get into some Q&A, and then we will leave the remaining time at the end again for any questions that you guys may have throughout it. So I always like to start my presentations with kind of stating some obvious questions, right? I don't think anybody would say that their work environment is just too much fun and nothing can be improved. Do you ever think you recognize someone too much? Do you ever feel like your employees are just too productive, they don't need to do anything else in a day? Did you ever think your culture was just so great that you couldn't improve it at all? Or, hey, that you've trained your employees too much and they need to stop learning? I think the answer to all those questions should be no, right? We want to be able to continue to improve in every area of our life and every area of our work in our work environment as a whole. Additionally, one last question to think about for you leaders on the phone. Do you think of yourself as a leader or a manager? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open it up to a poll. And I would like you guys to read the question, or I can read it to you. It says, what's the average employee turnover cost? And I'd like you guys to, let's start our presentation by answering that question. And David, if you think that's enough time, I think we can go ahead and broadcast those results. Thank you, David. So it is a tie for that $20,000 employee turnover cost and $30,000 turnover cost. So the reality is the statistic has come from another company in the space, in the automotive space specifically, Hierology, says that the average cost that for an employee who turns over to the dealership is $30,000. So think about that. Like all the time, effort, and energy you guys go and put into these people, to have them go somewhere else is a significant expense to the organization. So what can we do to become better? So I am ready to close the poll, and we will go on. David?
I added the second poll there for us, Lindsay.
Okay, so the second poll is, what percentage of employees are engaged in their work today? Just a few more seconds. It's interesting too what I'm seeing here. All right, well, we're ready to broadcast the results, and the interesting part is employees that are, the percentage of employees that are actually engaged in their work today is 15%. So it's much lower than we would like it to be, so it is our job to try to contribute and make that number go up. All right, so we are going to jump right in. All right, so if we look at car dealerships as a whole, and saying, I have spent my entire adult life in the automotive industry. I've spent a lot of my time in the dealership. I've spent a ton of my time, working with dealerships to become better, be more profitable from the advertising side. But as far as people go, if you look at some recent statistics, the 67% is the turnover rate of car sales people at dealerships today. Yet only that 15% of people are actually engaged in their work. So, I mean, this is incredible statistics, right? Because as we look at people who come into our organization, viable people, our salespeople that touch the client each and every single day, 2/3 of those people turn over. And we're worried about loyalty. We're worried about the brand loyalty. We're worried about that dealer loyalty. And we're worried about people coming back to the store. So we have to get better in that area. And I think one of the real quick ways that we can do that, right, is figuring out how we can get our employees more engaged, how we can get our employees wanting to be here every single day. And so to follow that up with some statistics, just in general, our business is changing significantly. We are seeing more and more people that are coming into these dealerships each and every day, and our space as a whole, these people are younger, right? These are the millennials. 60% of of hires in the last year were millennials. 69% of people said they would work harder if they were better appreciated. Let's take that a step further. These millennials that we are dealing with today are different, right? They're not motivated necessarily by money like the older generations are. They're focused on work-life balance. They want some flexibility. If they want to go and take an hour-and-a-half lunch to walk their dog, they want to be able to do that, right? But understanding that they'll be there till 9 or 10 o'clock at night if you need them to. Those millennials are motivated differently. So I think it's important to say this to you all so we know what we're working with and what we're dealing with each and every single day. So what we've done is we've created the Ultimate Employee Experience Platform. And this platform is designed to change work environments for the better and really, really try to help improve culture overall at the dealership. We spell, I don't know why this slide came out like this, but we spell work with an E because I truly believe in my success in this business. I couldn't do anything without my employees overall. So employees are the center of the success. And so the goal would be to speak to each one of those employees and allow them to reach their optimal potential overall. So the design and the reason for Werkandme and the intent behind it is honestly, we did a survey within our company a few years ago, and people want to be heard. They want to feel valued. They want to feel like they can contribute. They want to feel like they have access to the leadership team. They literally just want to be heard, and those people will work hard if we know how to manage them. So the reason behind and the intent behind Werkandme overall is to make that employee experience better, increase that, get that culture really, really sound and get it humming along. The other part is to reduce the overall employee turnover. We need to do a better job at that within our industry. We need to increase that employee engagement to be able to reduce that turnover. We need to increase the recognition. These people want to be spotlighted, right? They want to be recognized amongst their peers, amongst others. And it's also important to increase that employee development. And what I mean by that is we do a really crappy job, in my opinion, in our industry of showing an individual how they can get from point A to point B, right? And what I mean by that is we are looking at that individual development plan, if you will. So we have templates that will help you to say, hey, if I have a salesperson, the salesperson wants to move to the finance department, what do they need to do to be able to get there? It's all about that trajectory, showing them how they get from point A to point B. And if they're not equipped to get to point B, that's another discussion that the managers need to have with their people. And lastly, overall, which kind of goes in with the last one about increasing that employee development, it's also creating that career growth, doing what we have to do to create growth for our people and allow them to see that there's so much opportunity. They're not necessarily stuck right where they are, right? There's other opportunities for them to flourish within the organization.
Hey, Lindsay, this is Chris Austin. I got a quick question for you. We work primarily in automotive. That's about 95% of our clients today. And we're seeing a lot of turnover with CFOs, controllers, long-term, CFOs, controllers, fixed ops directors, even general managers, specifically in 2021 versus the last, 20-some years we've been in business. Are you guys seeing, a similar pattern? And if so, what do you think that trend is due to?
So Chris, can you just add a little more clarity to the question? So you're seeing CFOs and general managers do what exactly?
Well, it's switching companies. So when we talk about, employee engagement and, long-term succession plans, or like you mentioned here, career growth on that last point, we're just seeing a lot of turnover in 2021 that we didn't see in 2020 and before then. Just wondering if you guys are seeing a similar pattern there with turnover and maybe what that's attributed to.
Yeah, so we're seeing a ton of turnover this year. And honestly, that's a really hard question to answer with COVID right now, right? But the reality is I think a lot of people are realizing that they don't have to be there 15 hours, and I know this is against what we believe in our dealership business, but they don't have to be there 15 hours a day to be efficient, right? And with all of these, the younger generations that are starting to populate the dealership, we have to, again, provide more flexibility. And I think that's a lot of it. A lot of it is, there's a lot of burnout in our business. I've been through it. I'm sure all of us on the phone have been through it. So there's a lot of burnout. And I think that we have to focus on really just keeping the employees, including the general managers, right? Like the owners have to keep the general managers engaged in what they're doing. And we have to really, really focus on overall just, I think a better work-life balance is the way that is the best way to say it, and also better communication, right? I think traditionally in our business, our departments are very, very siloed. You have your variable side, you have the fixed side. You know, you've got, through the fixed side, you've got your technicians. They don't turn on their computers. They don't, you know, everything is just so siloed. And what happens when we silo is people don't feel invested in the greater good and the greater mission that we're trying to accomplish. So this app is also designed to be able to have better communication. So if I'm a dealer, if I'm a GM, right, like, listen, inventory is no joke right now, right? We have no inventory. So we better make sure that our salespeople are appreciating our service writers and all that they're doing, because when the inventory does become available, what's going to happen is those customers that you've just built great relationships in service are now going to start buying, and they're going to want to buy, right? So developing those relationships. So a message in this platform to be able to communicate to all departments through an application on the phone. You don't have to have your technicians log into their email, right? It's on their phone. And they're able to see what mission they're a part of and what they're included in. So, hey, you know, to the Mustang E technician back there that, you know, is taking great care of our customers, thank you, right? But also the general manager or the dealer is able to send weekly, daily, whatever they want, monthly communications from a video. They can video themselves and just say, hey, look, guys, here's the inventory issue. It's almost like industry updates. Here's the inventory issue. Here's what we're focused on. We had our most profitable month ever last month. We have no inventory despite our profitability. However, we are focused on doing one thing together. And please, you know, thank you so much to our technicians. Thank you to our service writers and sales. Thank you so much for, you know, bearing with us through this storm. All of a sudden, then it's a different life. Today, nobody knows what other departments are doing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a feeling of inclusion, I think, is another big item.
Sure. Thank you, Lindsay.
And yeah, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the application at this point. So, you know, from a standpoint of checking in. So the application is built when your employees come in to work every single day, or they don't even have to be at work. It's on their phone. They can check in. And what this data does is it aggregates the data over time to say, okay, generally I have really happy employees, or I don't, or I have happy employees in specific departments, but man, this department needs a little bit more help. I'll give you an example here. So let's pretend one of you just hired a new GSM, right? You hired a new GSM at your store. When you hired this GSM, you're thinking, wow, this is the right hire. But all of a sudden now, people are not happy each and every day. What this allows us to do is aggregate the data over time to predict when the train's actually going to hit, right? So it allows you to see the train coming before the train hits. So for example, if no one is happy under this GSM, we can follow up with surveys within the application to say, hey, what are the challenges you faced in your role today? What are the successes that you have had in your role? What are the things that we can improve on as a leadership team? And it's a survey that can be generated right within the application that allows us to tap in those departments. And I think what you're going to find is departments that you already know, or managers that you already know have departments aren't happy, I should say. You'll probably already know that. And what this will signify is, hey, our people also are not happy. So again, this can, and we aggregate it over time for a reason. Everybody has bad days. I have bad days. You all have bad days. And we want to make sure that we are getting the good quality data that supports any decisions that we can possibly make in the future. So again, every day, employee would come in, they would check in, and then that data we would have in store. So we have 6 different parts of our application. The first one is a Challenge Me section that we call Challenge Me, and Challenge Me is designed around contests or gamification, if you will. Notice Me is all about recognition. Go Me is about rewards. Serve You is about specific events. Grow Me is about that professional growth. And Ask Me is where those surveys are held out of. So I'm going to start with the Challenge Me section, and we call this our contest section or our gamification section. This is no different than what you guys do today, except bringing it more to life through an application. We can give you great ideas, but you already have spiffs that you give. So if whoever sells the most used cars this weekend gets $1,500. Whoever sells the most new cars this weekend gets X amount, right? Whoever has the most technician hours, you get, a $1,000 bonus at the end of the month. Whoever, sold the most brakes, you get whatever promotion that you're currently running. It's now at the fingertips of your employees. So, for example, I'm going to give you an example. You have two different sales teams. You have sales team A, you have sales team B. Sales team A, I might be, John, and I'm on sales team A, and Sam is on sales team B. Well, he's off on Sundays, right? But he's tied neck and neck with John, and he now sees this through his application to say, whoa, maybe I need to call a couple customers and go into work today because I've got $2,000 that could be deposited in my account tomorrow. Right? The other way you can look at this is, like I said, any service writers, any service promotions that you're currently doing, that's a contest that could be housed out of here. So it's both bringing in those different profit centers of your business. You've got your new, you've got your used, and you've got your service, right? Additionally, if there's other things that your organization does, we like to make things fun. If there's boating contests, Halloween costumes, ugliest sweater for Christmas, there's a secret shopper contest or whatever, who has the best virtual background in these virtual worlds that some of us are living in today. Again, that's not necessarily more in the dealerships, but from the vendor side, we've done contests where who has the best virtual backgrounds, and it just creates that engagement. It creates a fun work environment for people to start connecting and communicating. So that is the gamification section. Last summer, in the midst of developing this application, we watched Social Dilemma probably 10 times, and we tried to figure out, okay, what are people interested in? What do they like about social media? And the reality is they like to know about people's professional and personal lives, but people like the feeling of just feeling good, right? They like to be recognized. They like their peers to recognize them. So this is designed to say, hey, I had, my right hand, I had COVID back in April, and I would get on here and say, hey, so-and-so, thank you so much for, working on this RFP submission while I was out. Really, really appreciate your hard work. Thank you so much. The team loved working with you one-on-one, and thank you for all your late nights and weekends, right? So then that promotes, that's basically a post, and within that post, and people can like the post, they can comment on the post, but what's really unique is I like to give, right, and I think that all of us have that feeling of it's always better to give than it is to receive, so we give spot points every month. Those points cannot be spent on yourself. They have to be spent on others, which makes people want to recognize others, and so those points that we give turn into rewards, and I'll share that with you in 1 second. The other thing that I think is really interesting and unique here is, working in a big company, I have had the ability, and I would say that the privilege of being able to host town hall meetings. I always felt really badly when I would get on the phone and say, happy birthday, and here's all our October birthdays, and happy anniversary, and here's all our October anniversaries. The people that have been with the company and sacrificed a lot in the company for 5 or 10 years, right? And their anniversary date was 28 days ago. So for me, what was really important with building this application is when we're working with the HR departments to get birth dates and anniversary dates of, those higher dates of when those people started. So immediately, right, we know your birth date. Now all your friends, all your coworkers, your bosses, anybody has the ability to say, hey, happy birthday, David. We're so glad that we get to work with you every day. And then that can then turn into rewards. And I told you I will show you that in a second. But the same goes for the anniversaries and recognize somebody. If somebody's been within the organization 5 or 10 years, it's a lifesaver to be able to recognize them and show the organization that, wow, look at this. This person has built could be the receptionist that's now the marketing director at the actual store, right? So it allows you to share your thoughts and just be human with one another overall. So again, it's just a great way to recognize. You could have employee spotlights. You could recognize employees all the time throughout this. And then I have a question. So can you limit who can post? You can limit who can post, yes, but we don't suggest that. Now, I think it's important to monitor the post, right? But we've never really ran into any issues with anybody posting things that are inappropriate or things like that, or derogatory towards the organization. The goal is to allow it to be organic and create a fun work environment, and to be able to have everybody post about others and recognize. If we limited who could post it, I think it would prevent some of the authenticity of it, if you will. All right, so you remember how I said those recognitions a couple times turn into rewards. So we have an integration with Tango. We have access to over 500 gift cards. So when I recognize someone, I give someone points, right? And those points turn into rewards. And so that, if I want to redeem my rewards and take my husband, we'll go out to dinner tonight, I can certainly do that. If I just want to, be selfish and have a Starbucks and keep it for myself, I can do that too. If I don't want to turn my rewards into anything for myself, I'm allowed to do that as well. So we also have integration that allows us to support some of the main charitable organizations throughout the country. American Red Cross, the Humane Society. So if I say, hey, you know what, the 30, 40, 50 bucks is not important to me, I want to give it, I can certainly do that and give it to an organization. And then lastly, what's important here is the ability to do custom rewards. So within your organization, if people don't think they have access to you, and you might be the leader, you can say, hey, have lunch with Lindsay today. That you can save your points, bank your points, and then we go to lunch together. Back in the day, we could certainly, and we can still do it, any assigned parking spots. I know that sounds like a little quirky, but some people like that, right? So we can create as many custom things as we like. The other thing that we are seeing is certain organizations are pulling their points together. Their employees are pulling their points together. So if they want to go to Topgolf and take all these points and go to Topgolf as a group, they can do that as well. All right, so I talked about custom rewards. I can move on from that. And then the only portion of the app that says you, because this is about each individual employee and their own individual growth, their recognition, and so forth, the portion that says you is serve you. I truly believe that some of my best relationships, and probably why my retention is so high, is because of the relationships I formed outside the organization. They started inside the organization, but they also developed outside in a more meaningful way. And what I mean by that is, if you look at serving, I used to go to where my employees are. They're housed, most of them are in D.C., and I would allow them to rotate who would pick the charitable organization and what we would do. And so that's where I feel like, we volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House together. A lot of you dealers that are probably on this phone today have certain things within your community that you support, and you would be remiss to not share that with your organization and allow them the opportunity to help volunteer with you. So I think, it's really, really important there. I think we've tried to be creative too. A lot of people aren't getting together outside of work right now. It's starting to change, but the goal here would be for, wellness. You can promote wellness, virtual 5Ks. You can promote, mental health moments. You can do things about, others here. So one of the questions I have is, how much do the points cost to the company? Is it a one-to-one? It is a one-to-one cost to the company, but the way that the points are is it's 10-to-1. So if I give you 500 points, then it's really $50. So, but yes, we don't upcharge on the points at all. All right, so then there's the Grow Me section. The Grow Me is all about that training and development that we talked about that we're not great at within our industry. But just think about this as a training calendar, and it'll provide you some other resources within it. So if you have product training, if you're a Honda dealer and you have product training that you have going on a certain day, and your district manager is coming in, certainly put that on the calendar, right? Additionally, if there's specific categories, those IDP plans that I showed you about, this is all about the person and their professional growth. Those IDP plans, they can request an IDP plan right out of here. The other thing is, when we did our survey a couple years ago, people were like, we don't have access to leadership. We don't have access to leadership. And that's why I said, sometimes a lunch with someone would be important. So what I did is I put a mentorship program within the organization. This is all before this application was even developed, but I put a mentorship program within the organization. And that was my easy way of having access to leadership teams for people to have access. And I have today 4 different mentees, and it ranges from, anywhere from, how are you a professional woman in this business to, what are your household responsibilities at home? Like, yes, I still walk out of my office every night and have 4, sets of eyes looking at me and saying, what's for dinner, right? So it's being able to just provide that access and be able to mentor people and be able to really focus on, again, where they're at. So the mentorship program here, if you want to be a mentor, so usually managers or above, and sometimes even salespeople that have, are great at what they do, want to become a mentor. I would say don't limit that. If they want to become a mentor, let them become a mentor. And their mentee gets to choose who the mentor will be. The mentor obviously is a final approval, but we do ask them questions up front. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What are the biggest challenges that you face in what you're doing today? And what do you think you're going to get out of this with whoever your mentor is? So I feel like this has been a game changer for our organization as a whole, is just being able to provide that leadership, but from a different level. It's more on a personal level. All right, and then we have that continuous feedback loop. Like I said before, these questions are kind of crazy. What kind of snacks do you like in your break room? But think about that check-in section that I had showed you before. Within that check-in section, think about that GSM example that I gave you. If your employees aren't happy, how do we ask those follow-up questions through a survey? How do we create that? What kind of questions do we want to ask? How do we want to follow up with those people? And that all can be done right within the feedback loop of the Ask Me section within the application. So from a cost perspective, we are the entire suite and the entire application is $20 per person per month. The average dealership runs around $1,500 per month for the application. The points are additional, so it would depend on the organization, how many points you want to give to your employees each and every month to give, and you're only billed on the liability. So whatever's given, if they just sit in that one person's account and they're never given, you don't get charged for it. It's only what's actually given out. All right, so overall, I hope, I've learned in my career with dealers specifically, like, look, if you can't tell it to them in 25, 30 minutes, like, they're out. So my mission today and my goal is to share this with you in a short amount of time, leave some time for some questions and answers. And really the goal of this application and what we're seeing is, we're focused on reducing employee turnover, increasing employee engagement, increasing that recognition, increasing the employee development, and overall creating that career growth. And what I've realized is to win in the marketplace, you must first win in your workplace. So lastly, I showed this statistic with you with you guys a little bit earlier. 67% of the reported turnover rate with salespeople at car dealerships, people that become clients of ours, they're seeing that number drop to 21% turnover. So that's a huge, I think, a benefit with you utilizing Werkandme. And then we have one more poll. And I probably already gave you this answer throughout my presentation, but what is the younger generation primarily motivated by? And from my side, I can see what everybody's doing, so it seems like we're doing a good job. A couple more seconds. All right, so let's broadcast the results, David. All right, so our generation, and not mine, and I shouldn't have said that, but the younger generation is primarily motivated by the recognition and flexibility. And so just keep appreciating your people. Tell your people how much. I know it seems like, okay, you just work hard and you know you've done a good job. No, they need to hear that they've done a good job. They need to be recognized. They like that public recognition. They like the ability to be recognized in front of others, their peers, by you. And sometimes it's just as easy as thank you so much. Like, we really, really appreciate your dedication, your loyalty to this company. We know that we couldn't do this without you. And so for that, we're grateful. We can move on. The other thing that we're seeing is 71% of users are engaging within the application. I get asked that question a lot, like, what's your engagement rate? What are people actually doing? Well, it's about 71%. And we're seeing about, on average, by client, around 81 interactions per day in the recognition feature within the application. So if that tells you anything, it's telling you that people are used to social media, they're used to actually like looking and doing things on their phone, and we're seeing a lot of engagement based on the average dealer side. And lastly, I shared this with you at the beginning. You already probably know which departments are the ones that are struggling a little bit, but this identifies, this is how it rolls up from the back end when we do that check-in every single day. It rolls up to allow us to know which departments are the ones that need a little more TLC, which departments we need to tap into a little bit more to see where that turnover can or could be coming from. And overall, we're seeing, you know, across our entire portfolio of business, about 81%, a happiness rate of about 81%. And these are just testimonials, so I will leave it here, and I think it's a great time to open it up for some Q&A, David.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And let me just forward the slide along to the, so we have a view of you on top there, and Chris will join you too on webcam.
Yep.
Everyone, feel free to type questions in the Q&A box, which is now on the left, small frame on the left. You can ask questions, and we'll try to cover as many as we can. Let's begin with this one. Is this product for everyone?
That's a great question. I'd like it to be for everyone, but the reality is that you have to have a champion within the organization, within the store. You have to have someone that's going to own this, that's going to, and a lot of times the executive leadership team needs to be bought in with changing the culture or improving the culture at minimum. So I would say, unfortunately, the answer is no, it's not for everyone. It can be for everyone once the organization realizes that there is a need and that we need to improve and get better.
Lindsay, who is that champion typically within your clients?
So a lot of times it's the HR director. A lot of times it's the person who runs HR, and sometimes in a lot of the organizations now, for example, with the OEMs, right? We're seeing a customer experience person. Well, there's also a personnel person that are actually being added to the stores, and a lot of times, again, that does fall in the HR department. But that's who usually I'm seeing is HR is truly the champion, because a lot of this too connects with what they're doing, the employee problems that they have, right? And they're able to see some significant gains by having something like this. But again, definitely a champion.
Sure.
All right, here's another. Can I narrow in on departments that are in need of more help?
Absolutely. So I think on that last slide, and I can go back, I showed you all right here. So in the roll-up reporting that you will have access to, it will identify, now again, this comes from the HR department. So the HR department originally, based on setup and launch, needs to send us the name of all their people by department, and then we categorize those people in that department, and then we just monitor what their trends are over time with their check-ins that allow us to give you all back this information.
Here's another. Do you have discounts for bigger companies?
We do. So it's just dependent upon the size of the company, how many employees you have, how it's structured. So if it's, one HR person that handles everything, a lot of the big dealer groups, we work with a few. The general manager of the store does make their decisions usually, and sometimes it's more corporate based. So for sure, and that's just based on, the information that you can give us. We'll definitely work with you all.
And how many seats are typically enrolled in the program? We were looking at your pricing towards the end of the presentation, $20 per person. How many employees do you typically have enrolled in the program at for instance, a single point?
All of them. So, and the reason for that, Chris, is because if we're changing the culture, everybody needs to be, the top down has to implement it, but everybody has to be a part of it. Now, like I showed you before, on average, we're seeing about 71% of people are actually engaged in daily activity. But still, that's a lot better than the alternative, for sure.
Right.
Again, there's a Q&A box, little frame on the lower left that you can type in a question for Lindsay as we get ready to conclude. Here's another. What kind of contest can we do?
So you can do any kind of contest that you'd like, and that goes, we have a voting contest built right within here. So I think I referenced earlier the, Halloween costume, or who has the cleanest car. Send us a picture of the cleanest car, and your employees then can vote on who has the cleanest car, who has the ugliest sweater. Additionally, you can do contests by department. So you can do, sales can have their own contest, service can have their own contest. They don't have to participate in each other's contests, but you can have overall an organizational contest as well. And again, the contests aren't meant to be hard. They're meant to just be to whatever you're doing now, right? We can enhance what you're doing now, but it is, again, those contests are able to provide visibility to your people day in and day out. So that's the purpose of it. It's not meant for, you guys have to think on a whim all the time of what something different is. It's more around, hey, if we have a sales contest this weekend for whoever sells the most used cars or whoever has the highest gross profit, you get $1,000 in your paycheck, then we'll take that, we'll put it to the application, and then everybody has the ability to be able to see it. Any other questions?
I don't see any other further questions. Do you see an additional one there on the right?
I do. So as far as being tracked, we do have an integration. It depends on the client. We do have an integration that we are building that has access into Reynolds and CDK that allows us the harder things. And the harder things are things like, RO counts. And some of our dealerships today just have their service writers put their RO counts inside of the contest today. So managers do have to approve it to answer your question, but it is, right now, it's employee entered in some of our stores, and then the integration will kind of automate that.
That is our last question. So everyone, we just would love to get your feedback on the time spent. There's primarily two questions there that you can let us know your response for the time spent. Again, your responses are all confidential here. And we'll leave that up as we get ready to conclude. So Chris and Lindsay, I'll just hand it back to you for some closing comments before we conclude.
Well, thank you.
So,
Lindsay, if you want to wrap up, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for having me. I really, really am thankful to be able to present something that I'm extremely passionate about. And listen, whether you see this as a fit or not, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to talk to you. Happy to help regardless, and just share some insight in my learnings, and would love to help in any way I can.
Well, Lindsay, thank you very much. Very impressive presentation, and we hope everyone on here found the information very useful, not just to you, but to your business. We see this as really a very important topic right now with our clients. About 95% of our clients today are in the automotive space. And with the turnover we're seeing in the industry, there's a need to keep employees, especially your top performers, keep them engaged long-term, not just the short-term, keep them engaged long-term. As you guys know, it's very costly and timely to recruit, find great employees. So with Lindsay's program here, guys, this is going to keep your employees, your top performers engaged and avoid you having to recruit constantly and find different ways to keep your employees. So this is it's a great program. We're introducing this to a lot of our customers at Strategic Source, and happy to bring Lindsay on and introduce this to our team today. So we encourage you to reach out. David, we had her contact information up on the screen, email and phone number as well if you're looking for more information. See if we can get that up here.
Sure.
There it is. So if you guys want to reach out, Lindsay, that's the best two forms of contact information for you guys? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, great. So reach out. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation, reach out to me at sales at Strategic Source. Again, I'm Chris Austin, Executive Vice President of Sales. My phone number is here. If you want to text me at the 612 number for a copy of the presentation or email sales at Strategic Source, be happy to provide that to you so you can pass that on to your teams. Also, a few other notes before we wrap up here. I just want to thank you to our clients for attending. Also, if you're not a client today and you'd like to find out more information, reach out to us. We are doing these webinars every 2 weeks. We're booked really through February now with our new webinar series, and we're seeing a lot of requests for more information and education. So we're excited to have you on board today. Thank you for attending. We hope you found the information useful. Also, if you have any other suggestions for upcoming webinars and other areas you would like to learn for your business, send that to me, sales at Strategic Source, as we have over 160 different areas of expenses we're in today, and we're looking to educate our clients on each one of them in the upcoming year. So again, thank you. Feel free to reach out. And we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today. A replay of today's session will be available after today. We appreciate everyone's time, and we look forward to you joining us on future webinars with Strategic Source. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.